The Untold Story, 1971 Indo-Pak War. Wars don't start with gunfire. They begin with silence of ignored cries, broken promises, and the quiet rage of a people forgotten. In the early months of 1971, the Indian subcontinent stood on the edge of a volcano. The epicenter of that eruption wasn't Delhi or Islamabad, it was Dhaka. Then Dhaka, the heart of East Pakistan. Pakistan was split into two wings, East and West. But despite the Bengalis of East Pakistan being the majority, they were treated as second-class citizens. Their language was suppressed. Their leaders were silenced, and when they voted for their rights in the 1970 elections, they were denied power. On March 25, 1971, the Pakistani military launched Operation Searchlight, a brutal crackdown on East Pakistan. Dhaka University was shelled. Intellectuals were gunned down. Villages burned, the world looked away. But India couldn't. Over 10 million refugees flooded into Indian states like West Bengal and Assam. Camps overflowed, disease and starvation loomed. India opened its borders, its homes, and its heart, but it knew this couldn't continue forever. Watching quietly was a man in uniform. A man not known for shouting orders, but for shaping strategy. Lieutenant General J.F.R. Jacob. A Jewish officer in a Hindu-majority country, working to liberate a Muslim-majority region, not for glory, but for justice. Sometimes the strongest men are those who fight with maps, not bullets. Jacob's job was to plan the Eastern Command's response. But he didn't just want a military victory. He wanted a swift, clean, decisive end. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi consulted her Chief of Army Staff, General Sam Mankshaw, but Mankshaw was calm and clear. "I guarantee you a victory, but not now. Let me choose the time and place." India needed time for weapons, for diplomacy, and for global support, especially from the Soviet Union. While the world played politics, Jacob planned war. He studied the terrain, the troops, the morale. He saw the fractures inside Pakistan's army. He coordinated with the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali freedom fighters. And he devised the now famous bite and hold strategy. Take key towns, cut supply lines. Keep moving, don't get stuck, and above all, take Dhaka. I didn't want to prolong the war. I wanted a quick, decisive strike that would break their will to fight. On December 3, 1971, Pakistan struck first, launching air raids on Indian bases in the west. But they failed to make a dent. That night, Indira Gandhi addressed the nation. "The war that has been forced upon us is a war in defense of the freedom of the people of India and the people of Bangladesh." India officially entered the war, and the war machine roared to life. On the Eastern Front, Jacob's plan unfolded like clockwork. Indian divisions moved rapidly into East Pakistan. The Air Force dominated the skies. Paratroopers landed behind enemy lines. The Mukti Bahini disrupted supply routes. And everywhere, the people of Bangladesh welcomed their liberators. Jacob's orders were simple: don't stop. Keep going, Dhaka is the target. In just 7 days, Indian troops were deep inside enemy territory. The Pakistani army was collapsing, and the world was watching. We were fighting not just with firepower, but with intelligence, deception, and relentless momentum. The US sent its 7th Fleet into the Bay of Bengal. The Soviets responded with submarines. The Cold War played out in Indian waters. But nothing would stop what was coming. What if the greatest military surrender in history happened without a single shot fired? By December 13th, Indian forces surrounded Dhaka. Over 26,000 Pakistani troops remained, armed, fortified, but leaderless. And Jacob did the unthinkable. He flew into Dhaka, unarmed, alone. He walked into the enemy's command room. Across the table sat Lieutenant General A.K. Niazi, surrounded yet defiant. Jacob placed the surrender documents on the table. Niazi hesitated, stalled, tried to negotiate. Jacob stood, walked to the window, and said, General, you have 30 minutes. Accept these terms or face complete annihilation. Your choice. He didn't argue, he didn't shout. He waited, and when he turned back, Niazi had signed. On December 16, 1971, at the Dhaka racecourse, Lieutenant General Niazi surrendered to Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora. 93,000 Pakistani soldiers laid down arms. The largest surrender since World War II. It was never about conquest. Jacob later said it was about justice. The world blinked and the map of South Asia changed forever. In just 13 days, India reshaped a region. The US was stunned, Nixon had backed Pakistan. But India stood its ground, diplomatically, militarily, morally. Inside India, the mood was electric. Flags waved, songs blared, but the man who masterminded it all stood silently in the background. Jacob returned to duty, later. He retired quietly, served as governor of Goa and Punjab, and finally wrote his book, The Untold Story. He never took credit, he gave it to his soldiers. To the Mukti Bahini, to the spirit of liberation. The 1971 war wasn't just about defeating Pakistan. It was about the principles we stood for: humanity, dignity, and justice. Today, Bangladesh is free. India is proud. And Jacob taught us that wars aren't always won by the loudest men, but by those who think clearly, act boldly, and speak only when it matters. Some stories are not about those who shouted the loudest, but those who acted when it mattered most. This was not a war India wanted, but it was a war it had to win for its people, for its neighbors, and for its future. And in that war, one man stood quietly, plotted boldly, and gave us all a masterclass in courage, clarity, and conviction. This was his untold story. Now, it's yours to remember. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Read The Untold Story by Lieutenant General J.F.R. Jacob. Share this episode with someone who loves history, leadership, or unsung heroes. And above all, remember the men and women who fight not just with weapons, but with wisdom. This was The Untold Story, 1971. Thank you for listening.